Alright. Okay, welcome back to Fire Force Anime Review, episode number 70. We're here reviewing the 62nd episode of the series, With the Sun at His Back. And, oh boy, this episode covered a lot of material. And I reread the chapters that this thing adapted from. I'm like, wow. I was surprised they kept almost everything in from these chapters in the span of 23 minutes. You're like, how the heck is that possible? Now, here's what this episode adapts from the Fire Force manga. The first 15 pages of chapter 221 and the entirety of 222 to 229. Roughly 8 1/4 chapters. You're like, what the heck? Like, how the heck did they have that much material in one episode? Well, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, the production's done this before with JoJo Bizarre Adventure. And here's the thing. Did you know when they adapted the very first part, which was 44 chapters, mind you, they covered that in 9 episodes. Yes, 9. 66 they covered in 16 episodes. Yeah, and this, of course, is more. So, with this episode, there is exactly 74 chapters left to be adapted. Yes, seriously. And the next episode is going to go through, I think it's like Asuka History, I think it is. Because they went to the Asuka show like that was quick. At this point, there's like 5 more arcs to be adapted for the series. By the way, the very next arc, next episode is going to start the Cosmic History. I would not be surprised if they pretty much went through this whole arc in the same episode and maybe go through, I'm guessing, maybe like the first half of Final Pillar, maybe the first couple chapters, maybe. And that's for like next episode, but the one that I'm very critical of how much time they can take over this one is Great Cataclysm. This is 52 chapters. The last arc is really simple to cover that one episode. But the one critical arc I think a lot of people will be criticizing the series for is when they get to Great Cataclysm, which is 52 chapters. The longest arc in this whole series. So pretty much, here's what happens. So, we begin with Benimaru as lieutenant. He's the captain of Squad 7, where he's talking to his chief, who's the head of Amaterasu. We get a flashback for that at the beginning of the episode. And then we cut to, like, get this. The next scene here, after the credits, which is... No, not that one. Basically, it's Company 1. Yeah, Company 1. Or it's 2 members of Company 1. It is, we have, Ho Len Yi. And Kerm are basically dealing with Infernals. Yeah. And apparently these ones can talk now. It's a brief scene, and then all of a sudden 2 more pillars pop up. So now there are 7 pillars. There's 1 pillar left. And then we have at the wharf, we have members from Hydra Industries there. With Company 2. And who Hydra Industries is here? We have Yoshiro and Giro, the president of the company. Yeah, basically they're here with Company 2. The only thing they do cut out here from this whole scene here is a brief scene, the captain of Squad 2 going inside of a cannon. They completely cut that out of the episode. It's like they're about to go into it, and then they go completely to Company 7 and 8, which are, they're wanted fugitives. But, there's this, of course, Company 2 is dealing with a giant inferno, while in the case of who pops up the Simpler, why? It's the dead boss, who is basically Benimaru's mentor, who basically decided to mentor him by beating the crap out of him. Yep. And he sees him, and of course he rides off. We get flashback basically of when he was in charge. The fact that we see one of the times basically. So apparently he'll pray people with the rest in that town. So they deal with their bare fists. So he proceeds to walk up to this person who's in front of him. Turns out this kid's mother. Punch him once, punch the rest, and this sets up basically the man's death of being stabbed by him with a frickin' knife. Yes. Of all things, he was stabbed by a kid who hated him for killing his mom. Which, he probably had the right to hate him for it. And then, of course, he doesn't think Benimaru doesn't have resolve, per se, so he goes to find it. Apparently he does. And then, at the very moment he realizes Benimaru got resolve, he's walking. Oh, he probably feels it in whatever powers they have. Then he dies. And then, of course, Benimaru, later on becomes captain. And he goes, the group he founded, they're now Company 7. And they proceed to fight a lot of the episode. And, of course, they integrate flashbacks here, basically, of how he basically changed. He almost called him like a knucklehead, which, yes, he comes in the manga, too. And, of course, the fight does end with him being defeated. Yes, he's defeated. Lay the rest. For those of you curious, though, it's the doppelganger of the former captain. Let's see. So, as for Benny, they apparently do not have a credit for him for some reason. Benimaru himself is voiced by Aaron Roberts, but no credit for this captain who died. But great the fact they included him here in this episode. Yeah. And he's only in this one arc, goes as his doppelganger. And he will be back. Oh, don't worry, he will. And we see the whole company has their own. I think they refer to them as like type people like Benimaru, and see the company's all behind it. All these little fire spears. We see him also riding out one too. And by the way, on the story, they actually added this dialogue in where Hibana says, "I'm running in high heels," which. Yeah, she didn't say this in the manga because she was just there. She didn't have any dialogue. Good on, basically, for the animators for giving her some dialogue, because she's a great character. And, of course, you have Connie Clinkett Beard, basically, still reprising her role as this character, which, she's an absolutely great character. So, we see her, we see the current captain of Company 1, they're witnessing this big fight, and, of course, they win, and, of course, well, then the episode ends on the most weirdest note, because the series is turning to Soul Eater. Because, of course, the creators also created Soul Eater by, of course, they will know this episode, but they won't know the next episode because they're in the next chapter. The moon transforms into the moon from Soul Eater with a smiley face and the crescent moon in crescent shape. I'm like, what? Yeah, they actually do transform here. I'm like, that is so cool. The fact that they will note that. Oh, yeah. Because I read the opening pages of Chapter 230. They do note the change in the moon. Which I'm hoping, really hoping, that they do keep that in the actual episode itself. But next episode is going to be interesting. It's going to cover Katsubi history And maybe, I'm hoping maybe they might cover Final Pillar as well, even though it's like 6 chapters. But would they cover 10 chapters next episode? Who knows? We'll find out next week. But great episode overall. Like, it is surprising how much they kept in. Like, if you're worried that they cut material out of this episode, like, oh, like 8 1/4 chapters, like that is like way too much. Like, you're probably all thinking like, oh, they production, they must have cut something. They cut like one small scene. It didn't really affect the episode at all. But did it give all the dialogue in? Pretty much yes. They give all the major dialogue in that was important for this particular arc. That's all in here. So I recommend everybody who basically thinks that just watch this episode and then look up these chapters. Look up 221. Read the first 15 pages of that, because basically 16 to 20 was adapted for last week's episode, and then go through 222 to 229, and you'll see not much difference. It is basically almost verbatim from the manga. And some people are probably worried that we might have the same situation we did with Tokyo Read, that they might have adapted like one page. In the case of this, no, that didn't happen. The whole chapters were adapted. Maybe a lot, but yeah, they did cover it. Like, you can probably tell how much time they spent basically, like, because the chapters are the most part easy to adapt for them for this episode. So I get probably people complaining about basically not giving episodes. I was worried about that too, but so far, I gotta say they're doing a really good job. For 2 episodes in, yeah, for the main chapters, when the season started, we had 88 left to be done for the whole series. As this episode, we're now 2 episodes in, and they've already covered 14 full chapters. 14 in 2 episodes. You probably are like, oh, that's like too much. No, it's perfectly fine. Just read, like, so last week was 217 to 220 plus pages 16 to 20 of 221. That's what I adapted for last week. This week, it's that first 50 pages they skipped over from last week's episode for 221 and 222 to 229. Read those chapters after you watch this episode, and you will see how well they adapted this stuff. So there's that. So that's pretty much it particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. Next up is Anime Open Topics. Oh boy, I have stuff to discuss for this one, okay? Next video. Bye.